Hey guys, it's Alex Serpentine. First time calling myself that. This is the first video I'm doing with this new name. Um, I've changed it from my usual last name, and I used to call myself the Manic Scholar. So now I'm going by Alex Serpentine. So today I wanted to talk about Andrew Tate. I've been looking into uh, his personality through different systems, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, Vedic Astrology, and Michael teachings. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those, and also just talk about what I've learned about him. So before I get into the personality stuff, I'll just say what some stuff that I've realized about him. So if you guys don't know who Andrew Tate is, he's this guy who created his own. Well, he basically has like a sex trafficking business where he has women on webcams. Uh, and he's like controlling the whole thing. He's had like hundreds of women or whatever doing that, and then he's released courses on how to be successful, how to make money, and all this. But what I noticed was that he just it seemed like his dad was a big influence on him, but it seems like his dad was really tough on him. It in one of the shows I was watching, there's two shows that I watched to learn about him. One was I Am Andrew Tate, which is on Peacock, and then there's The Dangerous Rise of Andrew Tate, which is a Vice special. So when I watched the I Am Andrew Tate one, he was talking about his dad a little bit. He said his dad slapped him a couple times, but that was the extent of his like the worst that he did. But it seemed pretty obvious that he was lying about that. And so it seems like the influence he got from his dad was that what he learned was it was not okay to be vulnerable or weak in any way, and you have to be strong, and you have to be dominant, and that kind of thing. So yeah, it made him into this person who's not okay with vulnerability, and if he sees vulnerability anywhere, he's gonna like demonize it or take over and be dominant. So basically, his view of women is kind of like that they'll just do whatever he says. He programs them, and they just do whatever he wants them to do, and he has total control over them. He takes care of them by giving them a job, but then he's like raping them and abusing them, and so that's actually what's going on. But he's been evading all these accusations and investigations and related to all this stuff, and he's still gets out of prison and stuff over and over and shit. Um, so yeah, I mean, he's a very interesting figure because he really rose into the popular sphere, into everyone's vision, or into the popular, yeah, into this popular sphere. So everybody knows who he is now. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about some of the personality things for those different systems. So I'll talk about Myers-Briggs first. I was looking at the personality database and seeing what people were saying about that. It's the PDB. There's an app for it if you guys don't know about it. Um, but I was feeling into what I know about him, and it seems like he's an ESTP. So what that would mean is that he has extroverted sensing first, which is being aware of the present moment, what's happening in the present moment, very grounded, very solid, physical oriented, which makes sense for him as a fighter and him just being able to respond to things on the spot. So that's his main function, and then the second function is introverted thinking. So he has this kind of his own way of thinking that he's built it by himself inside his own mind. That's the introverted version of thinking. So he has those two functions paired, and so that's what makes him an ESTP. So it seems pretty obvious he's that. Some people are saying he's an ENTJ, but I don't see introverted intuition in him. I don't see extroverted thinking very strongly. He seems to be very much an ESTP with the extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. And for Enneagram, he seems to be at 8-wing 7, and his tri-type is like 8-3-7, I would say. So he's got 8 mainly, but then he's got some 3 and he's got some 7. And so those are the more like extroverted, like like powerful outward moving energies for in each of the centers. So so that's called the mover shaker, the 378 or the 837, depending on which comes first. So that's like Trump has is an 837, for example, or 378. Um, so they've got some of that similar stuff going on. So that's it for uh his Myers-Briggs' Enneagram. And I wanted to talk a little bit about his Vedic chart. We don't know his birth time, so I can't make a chart to figure out what his ascendant is. So that's not probably not going to be accurate. So instead, I have this moon chart. If you look here on the left, what you can do is if you don't have someone's birth time, you can just put 12 o'clock, like midday, and then you could set it on a moon chart, which puts the moon in the ascendant in the first house on the chart. So then everything is from the moon's perspective. And in Vedic astrology, the moon is the primary planet to pay attention to. So actually, they emphasize the ascendant as the most important one to look at, and then secondarily from there it's the moon, and then it's the sun. So what you can see in his Vedic chart is he actually has sun and moon in Scorpio, along with Saturn and Uranus. He has 4 planets in Scorpio. So that's like Mars energy. It has like some themes of like deep transformation, but also like control and dominance and like kind of the like seductive kind of energy. But it goes like really deep, but very martial kind of energy, very action oriented. What I've been noticing for Scorpios, looking at Vedic, there's a lot of like either fighters or like strongmen, bodybuilders, also people who go into really deep psychological things, and like sexuality is a big part of it. So I'll just list a few different Scorpios that I have on my list here. Britney Spears is a Scorpio sun. Eddie Hall, the strongman, ex strongman, he's a Scorpio moon. Jimi Hendrix is a Scorpio sun. Joseph Stalin, Scorpio sun. Larry Wheels, he's a Scorpio moon. Michael Jordan's a Scorpio moon. Nicki Minaj is a Scorpio sun. Let's see who else. Stanley Kubrick is a Scorpio moon. Thor Bjornsson, half Thor Bjornsson, is a Scorpio sun. And Travis Scott is a Scorpio moon, and XXX Tentacion is a Scorpio moon. So you can get kind of the idea of what Scorpio energy is like. So that's like one of the main things I wanted to point out in this chart. And then there's one of the other things I could see is, so you can read a chart from the moon, like I'm saying. So from the moon, there's the Mars and Jupiter are in Aquarius in the 4th house from the moon. So this is dealing with home environment. So what he's doing in the home, and he has Mars there and Jupiter. So it's like basically that kind of dominating energy with Mars, and then Jupiter is like the teacher. Aquarius is very future thinking, future oriented, um, very eccentric. But one of the things you can see here is there's something called Parivartana that's happening because Mars is in Aquarius, and the ruler of Aquarius is Saturn, and Saturn is in Scorpio, which is Mars sign. So basically, Mars is in Saturn's sign Aquarius, and Saturn is in Mars sign Scorpio. So there's an energy going back and forth. We don't know exactly which are the original houses that this is happening in, but at least from the moon's perspective, there's a connection between the 4th house from the moon and the where the moon is. So that's the home environment is really big, and he's got like mansions, and he has his whole business running on in his mansion, and he has all the women there with their cameras and stuff going on. And he has all this stuff happening behind the scenes that he doesn't show everybody what's going on. Um, so yeah, that's one of the big things in this chart. Another thing to look at is he's got Rahu in Pisces, and it's in the 5th house from the moon, which is tied to creativity. Pisces is also very creative. Um, and K2 is in Virgo. So that brings some kind of analytical ability from past lives. And it's in the 11th house from the moon. The K2 is. So that's like a connection to groups from past lives, is what that indicates. So that's just a couple things I wanted to point out in his Vedic chart. A lot of Scorpio energy and some Aquarius. He actually has some Libra stuff going on too, because Venus is in Libra in its own sign, and Mercury's in Libra, and Pluto is in Libra. So some Libra stuff going on too. So that's all I wanted to say from his Vedic chart. So the last thing I want to talk about is his Michael chart. If you guys don't know what Michael teachings is, it's this channeled body of knowledge that talks about our soul types that we have for our whole reincarnational cycle, and also our overleaves, which are characteristics we take on for each life. So the essence on the left is stuff that stays the same for his whole reincarnational cycle, all his lives. This stuff on the left stays the same, and then on the right, this is the stuff that he's chosen for this life, basically. So I'll just go through each of the things that are on here. So his role is an artisan. So that's like his main role. Artisans are very sensitive and creative. They deal with structure, taking things apart, putting them back together. It's kind of an artisan kind of thing. They're the ones who create culture. They're the natural creative type, but they're very sensitive. They actually have something called input, like 5 inputs. Inputs are like psychic input. Is kind of like what you can think of like when you're plugging in something into the back of your TV and there's this different inputs. It's like you can plug different things that he's paying attention to at once. You can pay attention to 5 different things at once and mix it together in his mind. That's basically what the artisan does. So that's interesting because his energy overall is very like intense, but you might not notice that he has this artisan quality, which is his actual role. So he's actually pretty sensitive, but this is kind of made up for with his essence twin, which is a king, and it's discarnate, which means it's not incarnate right now. His essence twin, it's on the astral plane, which means that he gets a boost of king energy. King is very action oriented, always associated with leadership, very dominant energy. Like dominance is the natural goal for the king, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So he's got that. That's pretty big. He's got priest as his cadence position, so that's more of a spiritual outlook on things, wanting to inspire the great people towards the greater good, to the highest good. And that's kind of what the priest is all about. So he's an artisan king priest mix, basically. He has a little bit more artisan and a little bit of warrior, a task companion that's a warrior. So that's everything from all the role energies from his essence. He's got energy orientation, which means in all his lives, he's mostly focused on the physical, energetic domain of things, as opposed to the intellectual or the emotional. So he orients towards energy, or beauty, it's called also. So that's an interesting thing to look at. Not everybody has energy orientation. His male energy is really high. It's 98%. So 98% male and then 2% female. So his energy is forward moving and like going through in one direction, like getting through obstacles. Basically, is the male energy is single pointed focus and directional. So he's got that really strongly. His frequency is 100, which is the highest frequency you can have. So basically, he's kind of his energy is kind of airy, but he zips through things really fast. Like his life is going to be jam packed with activity, basically. He's got 12 previous cycles, which means that before he was on Earth, he was on 12 different planets and had a cycle on each of those 12 planets, reincarnating over hundreds of lives. So that's actually a lot. Most of the people I have channeled are around 10. So he's a little bit more than most people. So his global job and community responsibility, he's got global job of analysis and a community responsibility of acceleration. Analysis is a mix of scholar and artisan energy. So it's good for studying and taking things apart, really getting to know things on a deep level. So that's his goal job. Acceleration is double artisan. So you can see that right there. And then that's everything in his essence. So his overlays, we'll talk about that, and then I'll sum up everything. So he's in the baby soul age, but that's also known as structure, which means basically if you're in the baby soul age, it doesn't mean that you're like not spiritually evolved, because you can be spiritually evolved on any soul age, but it means that you're kind of the lessons you're learning about like the right way to do things. Like, how do I approach things in a way that's like, it's about like building structure and like taking things apart to the basic components and like analyzing how do I do this the right way is basically the baby soul age, and what's focused that's what the main focus is of that soul age. So that one, if we look at the soul ages, look at this real quick. It's the second of the 5 soul ages that you have in your reincarnational cycle. So it's after the infant soul age, which is where you're just learning about survival, and then you get into structure where you start becoming part of society, learning the rules and how to do things the right way. And then after that, you go into achievement, really focus on achieving as much as you can. Then you go into relationship, which goes right deep into emotions, and then you kind of step back and look at the whole picture and get an understanding of everything. So that's kind of the whole reincarnational cycle. So let's go back here. Yeah, okay, so that's his soul age. He's level 4, so he's right in the middle of the baby soul age. So here we go. His goal is dominance, which is pretty obvious in seeing how he behaves and what he's doing. He's taking a position of influence and leadership. So he has his own courses and stuff, and he's influencing a bunch of people. People are looking up to him as a leader, unfortunately, because um, he's created all kinds of problems with the sex trafficking and all that. Um, but yeah, dominance is pretty obvious for him. His attitude is spiritualist, which is open to seeing possibilities and looking at the higher side of things. And then his mode is aggression, which is pretty obvious as well too. It's about oh no. Okay. Yeah, aggression is the most intense of the modes. So it's the energy that's going outwards, and it really going through lots of breaking through tasks, going through obstacles. Very, it's aggressive. It's just the easiest way to say it. So if you can see that, he's got dominance, goal, and aggression mode with the king essence twin and energy orientation. That's all this king kind of energy going on. So his centering is intellectual emotional, which means that he processes things firstly through his intellect, and then he that informs his emotional state. So that's kind of the centering he's in most of the time. So his obstacles are stubbornness and martyrdom. Stubbornness is basically like digging your heels in and not wanting to budge from the way you do things, the way you see things. It's a fear of change. So basically, it's like nobody's going to change the way I'm doing things. I'm going to keep on staying doing what I do, how I do it. And then martyrdom is kind of like an oh poor me. I'm one that's always having to deal with everything, and I take the whole burden of everything. Just becoming the martyr, acting as if you're the martyr. So those are his obstacles. His body types are jovial and Saturnian. Jovial is like the most built one. It's kind of has like that masculine energy to it. Um, Typically, like how it's stereotypically shown is like they're like kind of like the beefy, big, like hairy, balding kind of got like look. But it's very expansive. It's associated with Jupiter, so it has kind of like this teacher kind of guru energy to it. And then Saturnian is kind of like stereotypically like Abraham Lincoln, basically. Abraham Lincoln was a Saturnian type. So it's kind of very bony, but tall, like broad shouldered, and there's a lot of association with leadership with that kind of energy. So, and that one's a very a positive energy. Both of them are positive energies of the different types. His quadrant is knowledge. So when he's in a group setting, he's the one that's providing the information to the group. And then his needs are expansion, exchange, and power. So expansion is basically whatever you're engaging in, you want to expand that. You want to add more and more to it. So it's like if I set up this system, I want the system to grow and grow. Or like a school, for example, I want the school to grow and grow, get bigger. If I have a business, I want the business to get bigger and bigger. I want to get more and more money. I would just want everything I do to expand and expand. That's expansion. And then exchange is like that he wants some kind of one-on-one interaction with people, where there's exchange of like I'm communicating with you, you're communicating back, we're giving each other some kind of information or attention back and forth. So it's like a one-on-one kind of dynamic. And then power is just feeling like you're in a powerful position of influence. So that's pretty obvious for him too. So yeah, that's his Michael chart. What I can say overall is that some of the most noticeable things are the action oriented king kind of energy. So he's got like the essence twin that's a king, and then energy orientation, dominance goal, and aggression mode. Those are all king oriented kind of energies. But he also has some of this artisan kind of stuff going on, because he's got his main role is artisan. He's got some secondary artisan, and he's got analysis and acceleration, which both have artisan in the global job and community responsibility. He's got intellectual centering, which is also assigned like aligned with artisan. Jovial is an artisan body type. Structure, the structure soul age, baby soul age. That's also very like aligned with the artisan. So he has kind of this aspect of like, let me take things apart and really understand them on a deep level. So that's kind of how he does things, is like really delve into it and like take it apart to really understand things. And it has some creative energy tied to it. But uh, yeah, so those are the main things I'm seeing. Dominance is very obvious. The king energy comes across so clearly, and the aggression mode does too. And the analysis is part of that too. His global job. So yeah, that's it for his Michael chart. And like I said earlier, he's an ESTP, so he's got extroverted sensing and introverted thinking as his main functions. He's got the 378 tri-type in Enneagram, which is the mover shaker, and he's got a lot of Scorpio energy in his Vedic chart: Sun, Moon, Saturn, Uranus. He's got some Aquarius with Mars in Aquarius, Jupiter in Aquarius, a little bit of Libra with Venus and Mercury there in Libra. So that a lot of that fits with like the 378 ESTP. Extrovert sensing seems to be aligned with people who have Scorpio, very grounded in the moment, action oriented energy. So yeah, that's it. Andrew Tate's definitely an interesting guy. How I feel about this is like the people I've been studying that I'm really interested in, reviewing through these charts, is they're usually like warriors or kings. For some reason, I'm just like really attracted to understanding the masculine energy with things. Oh yeah, another thing is he has 98% male energy, which I said earlier, but that kind of contributes to his energy and how it's manifested. But yeah, I keep on getting charts, and they end up being kings or warriors. So it's just kind of like I'm doing some kind of study on that kind of shit in this life for some reason. So yeah, interesting guy, very controversial. I'm not really a fan of the way he does things, but it's still interesting phenomenon. It's unfortunate that he's influenced so many people with his views, but that's the nature of the dominance goal. So yeah, there you go. That's Andrew Tate. Thanks so much for listening. I'll have some more videos coming soon. I just changed my handle on everything to Alex Serpentine, so you can look at my Instagram. I've been posting things about books I've been reading, and I'll probably post something on there just to show that I just did this video about Andrew Tate. I'll share that. So yeah, just stay tuned. There'll be more to come. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.